So hi everyone, my name is Mike and today I'm with a professional language teacher. Hi teacher.
Hello.
And I have some questions and let's start. So as a language teacher, how do you usually motivate your students to learn English?
Well, I motivate my students depending on the context I am in. For example, with kids, I can use stamps of happy faces and they can feel motivated. But if I'm, for example, in a language center or in a university or we're in high school, it can vary. For example, in general, well, this since I have been teacher for adults most of the time, I try to motivate them, telling them like language is something that allows them to know other cultures, is something that will help them to improve job opportunities or academic opportunities. And also, well, obviously I tell them that if they learn English well, they will earn, or yes, they will earn more money. And I think this is a great motivation for them. In general, I would say that, okay, and as I told you, depending on the context, I use different strategies to motivate my students.
Okay. And okay, with the second question we have, what do you think motivation plays in the language acquisition?
Well, I think that motivation is pretty important in second language acquisition because, well, this is how we engage our students, okay? So I think that if the students don't have motivation, they won't learn in the same way, right?
Yeah.
So I think that maybe some things can be focused just on memorization, but not on how to use the language in different contexts, for example, right? So I think that motivation is the most important thing in learning processes.
Okay, this is my turn. I'm Matthew. This is the third question. Well, have you noticed differences between highly or low motivated students in terms of progress?
Yes, I have noticed that there are big differences between those students who are motivated or who are not so motivated. I think that, well, it's important to highlight that we have two kinds of motivation, right? We have the extrinsic and the intrinsic motivation. So those students who have a high level of intrinsic motivation are better in terms of language learning progress because, well, they not only study when they are in the university or in a school or whatever, they study also at home, and that's something that is pretty important when we are learning a language. So we have to be really autonomous in terms of improving, okay? So the only way to improve our English or, well, whatever language is when we study by ourselves too, not only, as I told you, in educational context, but also at home. So I think that, well, as I told you, there is a big difference in terms of high or low motivated students.
Well, this is the fourth question, the last. According to Courage, the affective filter can block learning when the students feel anxious. How do you reduce anxiety in your classroom?
Well, in terms of anxiety, I would say that I try to reduce this feeling or this emotion by making my students feel confident in my classes, because sometimes, well, they feel really afraid of speaking, for example, especially on that skill. So I try to make activities that help them to feel confident and comfortable in terms of language learning, because, well, it is true that when maybe the affective filter is too high, the students can feel the learning process as something frustrating, and that is not something that facilitates learning. So I try to, in general, make them feel confident with their learning process. So I have to be really empathetic with them. I try to understand how they learn and how they could feel in terms of the second language acquisition, right? And that's it.
Well, to start with it, let me ask you some questions. The first one is, what did you decide to study modern languages?
Well, first of all, I'm really into with the England culture. I also love to do a lot of aspects in relation with England. For example, I really enjoy to see soccer match, and I think that one of the reasons for I decided to study English is in one moment in the future or in my whole life, I would like to visit England. I want to be able to share and to communicate my ideas with the people from England.
Well, the next one is very simple. What motivates you the most to learn English or another language?
Well, as I told you before, for as long as I have memory, I I have feel passion with England culture because I love football. I love or soccer. I really enjoy to everything related to England and sports. But I think that in a future I would like to stay in a country without the necessity to use translator for communicate with another person.
Okay, thank you.
So now moving on with the questions, I have another for you. It says, how do your teachers help you to feel relaxed or reduce your anxiety during your class process?
Well, it depends because, as you know, here in the university, you take class with a lot of professors. But I think that each one has a different way to teach and to improve your skills. And also, you don't have the opportunity to feel confident with everything, with every teacher. But I think that they want to improve through speaking activities and to be in order to be more confident with our partners.
And also, have you ever feel demotivated or, in this process that is something difficult and sometimes?
Well, of course, specifically in the transition between third semester and first semester, I think that is the most difficult because I knew all of the aspects. I think that I knew all of the aspects that are linked to the English idiom, but the complexity of the topics that we have already seen in that semester, I think that I could find some aspects that I really found difficult to develop my English skills.
Okay, so having this in mind, it's time to say thanks to Sebastian for this time.
Thank you.
After analyzing both interviews, we realized that learning a second language is not only a cognitive process, but also an emotional one. Motivation is not something extra, it is part of the learning mechanism itself. When students feel connected to the language, whether through culture, travel, or personal dreams, they learn faster and more deeply. Another important lesson is that autonomy makes a huge difference. It isn't enough to attend classes. Learners need to practice outside, explore their interests, and push themselves. Progress depends on habits, exposure, or personal commitment. We also learned that anxiety can be one of the biggest obstacles. If students feel judged, insecure, or overwhelmed, they stop participating and start avoiding the language. This matches with Krashen's hypothesis and also the student's real experience. Created a positive classroom atmosphere is not just a teaching strategy, it's a requirement for learning. Finally, we realized that every learner has a unique story. The professor sees motivation from a professional perspective, while the student sees from his own life goals. Both are valid, and both shape the learning process in powerful ways.